Hey, it's Todd here. You won't be able to see me in this video, but I'm here in the live chat box to answer any of your questions. Please feel free to say hi. I'd love to hear from you. During this difficult time, we wanted to take some time out to be here for you. So today, I'll be taking you through a peg game I created in the hopes that you'll be able to make it and have some fun with your family while you're all stuck at home. If you're looking to make a peg game with your CNC, a quick search of Google for peg games will give you all kinds of great inspiration. Now these sort of games were what enticed us to make a free set of clip art for you that comes with your Vectric software so you can make some of these on your own. If you own a VCarve Desktop, Pro, or Aspire, you're eligible for some free content to use in your software. If you open up your software and click on the clip art tab, you'll see the clip art folder at the top here with all the different folders with content in them. If you don't see your content down here below, just right click on any of these folders and choose download. Your software will automatically try and log you into your V&Co account and download all the content that you're eligible for. In your 2D game layout, you're going to see 6 different layouts. The top 3 are for cribbage style games and the bottom 3 are for peg style games. If you double click on one of the cribbage style games, you'll see that you get all the vectors that you need or that are required to actually cut this board out. Of course, you'll need to develop your own tooling, but this will get you off to a great start. Underneath your 2D layers, you're going to see all the different layers are named and also color-coded so you know what to do with them. You've got your outside profile vector, you've got a cross-section here for the molding toolpath, you've got some extra vectors here for V-grooving, which should be a way to add a little bit of detail to it, and of course all your holes to cut your peg holes. We've also left ample space in the middle here for you to add in some 3D content if you want to from Design and Make. At the bottom we have the peg square, the peg triangle, and the tic-tac-toe style square. If we double click on that again, in come your vectors and they're all ready for you to go ahead and develop your tooling. Now the one that we're going to look at for the next part of this video is going to be the peg solitaire square. There are all kinds of different ways that you can make this, and these are just some good examples. But I preferred to make one like I had when I was a kid, this cheap plastic one that kicked around our house for many, many years. Here are some pictures of a game that I created a few years ago. It was a lot of fun to make and fun to play. And my dad, well, you know what? He really, really enjoyed it. Let's have a go at creating a simpler version of the one that you just saw that I had created. This one will be a single-sided job and a little bit more simple, but yet will be really, really fun to play. So let's create a brand new job. This is VCarve Desktop, but everything you're going to see here can be done in VCarve Desktop, Pro, or Aspire. This is going to be a single-sided job. I'm not quite sure what the dimensions are of the square solitaire game that we have in the software, so I'm just going to go 6 by 6. That should be big enough to start. And then the thickness of my material, I'm going to make a guess at 3/4 of an inch. Now keep in mind, I'm never going to cut this, or I'm not going to cut this right now because I'm not near a CNC machine. I'm just like you and I'm in my house. We're going to be using inches. We're going to zero off our material surface. We're going to set our datum to the center, but make sure you change that for where you need for your machine. It doesn't matter what our modeling resolution is. Right, I'm going to leave it at high, but you could go with standard if you'd like to. We're not going to use any 3D content, so it really doesn't matter a whole lot. But if you do intend on using 3D content, then I would up that, or I would leave it at very high. We're going to use Canadian Maple, and we're going to click OK to start. So let's go over to our clip art tab, and we're going to look at our clip art, and we're going to go to our 2D game layouts, and we're going to double click on our peg solitaire game. I guessed right. So it's about 6 by 6. That's a pretty good size for us. So what I'm thinking we can do is we can actually extend this out and put a little bit of a box here, or a cavity, or a pocket, I guess, for the pegs as you jump and leap and you start to remove pegs out, and you can pop them into that little side thing. So to do that, we're going to need to make our job space a little bit bigger. So let's go up here and on our drawing tab, we're going to set our job dimensions. We're going to make this maybe be 8 inches across. I think that's a good number. And it'll automatically update for us, and that looks pretty good. So we'll just click OK. Now we're going to take this whole thing and we are just going to nudge it over. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to line up my center line with about the center of these 3 right there. So let's select that. Let's drag it over And we are just going to guess at about the center, and that's probably good right there. That looks great. Perfect. Now what I think we should do is we should make this box a little bit bigger. Now I don't want to actually replace any of these vectors if I can help it. What I'd like to do is use what's already there. So I'm going to select, or actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a brand new rectangle. And this new rectangle is going to be 6 inches wide by 4 inches tall. We're going to click create. We're going to close that down. And that's perfect for what I was sort of thinking. And that was created right in the center. So we can grab our box or our game and we can move it over to where it needs to be like that. That looks pretty good. Perfect. Okay. Now what we can do is we can actually take this outside box. Now remember up here at the top, we have these layers that are already set up for us. So this is my profile cut. It's a blue line. If I go into node mode, I can just grab all of those nodes and slide it over to the right and leave it right there. And now my actual game board is the right size that I want. And I can delete this working vector out of the way. That's perfect. Okay, now we're going to start thinking about how we can build this little pocket here. Well, what I'm going to do, or what I think we should do, is probably balance it all off by making sure that this distance here is the same all the way around our board. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and use our measure tool. We're going to click that. I'm going to click here and line up pretty straight as I can across to there. And that will give me, you'll see up in the right or left-hand side, the X distance is 0.345. So that's going to be our offset. So let's close that down. I'm going to grab this vector and we're going to offset that inwards, 0.345. And we're going to not worry about creating sharp corners. We don't need to delete the original, but we want to select the new one and we're going to offset that in and we're going to close that down. That looks pretty good. So that's where I want the outside edge and the bottom of my little pocket to be. Now I just need to figure out how wide I need this space to be. So the same deal, I need to make sure I have the right amount of space between this peg hole and the outside of my box. So I'm going to create a rectangle, simple rectangle. I'm just going to draw it in here. But I want to make sure that the width is equal to the distance that I had that I measured over here, which is going to be 0.345. We're going to go ahead and apply that and close that down. We'll zoom in by using my mouse scrolly wheel, and we're just going to make sure that that snaps to the edge of that circle like that. Now perfect. Now really all we want to do is just keep this rectangle here. So we can do a couple things. We could draw a rectangle, just snap it in there and delete the other bits. But I'm going to use our trim tool, interactive trim tool. I'm just going to snip this off where I want it to be. We'll close that down. I'll select this. I can press delete on my keyboard and that's gone. Now I have this box right here. That looks great, except for it's got these pointy corners. I think I want to round those over. So let's go over to our fillet tool. And we're going to fillet these 1/4 inch. So we're just going to click on those. You'll see that check mark shows up just below that icon, which means I can actually click and fillet. And that's great. Now to keep this all neat and tidy, I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say move to a new layer. Okay. And we're going to call this pocket. And we're going to color that green. We're going to click OK. And now we unselect that. You'll see it's on its own layer now. And it's easy to tell. Okay, now the next thing we need to do is we need to look at these holes. Now these peg holes were only here for reference. They weren't meant to be the exact size. You might choose to use a dowel. You might choose to use maybe a golf tee or whatever you'd like. So I need to figure out first of all what I'm going to use and then adjust these holes to be the right size for that. Ah, perfect, these will work. Tim Sway would be proud. Okay, so now how are we going to resize all these holes to fit my colored pencils that we're going to use? So the easiest way to do that is going to be to create a brand new layer, and we're going to call this pencil holes. Okay, and we're going to change the color to be purple because it happens to be the pencil that I measured. Click out here. We have pencil holes selected. That's the actual layer. And we're going to go ahead and select all of these holes. And we're going to do a simple offset. And seeing as we're offsetting these, the result of the offset will end up landing on the pencil holes layer. Okay, so bear with me. So what we're going to do is a little bit of math on this one. So we're going to go ahead and offset these, offset them outwards, and we need to do a bit of math. Now I measured my pencils and they are 5/16. Okay, now the original holes are 1/4 inch in diameter. I measured those before, so I know that. So what I'm going to do is I need to figure out how far out I'm going to offset these to make it work. So we're going to take 1 and we're going to divide it by 16. And we're going to press equals right inside that field. Then we're going to go ahead and take that, okay? And we are going to times that or multiply that by 5. So that's 1/16, and we're going to multiply it by 5, and we're going to equal that. That's great. So there's the result of that. That's what 5/16 is in decimals. Now we're going to minus the 1/4 inch that I measured for those holes were. Press equals again. Then we need to take this number and we need to divide it by 2 because we're offsetting outwards that, okay? So we'll divide that by 2, press equals, and that is the amount that we're going to offset these. We're not going to worry about creating sharp corners. We're not going to delete our originals. We are going to select the new and we're going to offset those outwards. We're going to right click on those and we're going to group those while I have them still selected. Then we're going to close that down. You can see that they've ended up now onto the purple layer, which is called pencil holes. That's great. Now we can go ahead and hide the original peg holes. And I believe that we now have all the bits we need to tool this up. Go to our tool paths. I'm going to pin that down. We're going to look at our material setup. Everything here looks good. I'm not going to change anything. I'm really happy with that. So press OK. It's important to remember that I have not run these tool paths. So you need to check all of these tool paths so that they are appropriate for your machine, the tools you have on hand, and the material you're cutting into. This is super important. We want you to be super safe at all times. Okay, the first set of tool paths we're going to make will be for these actual holes that we're going to put our pencils in. So looking at this right now, I made a bit of an error by choosing purple as my color for this layer. Purple is the color of a selected vector. So if I select any of these vectors, you'll see that they end up turning purple. So if you're really used to the software, you sometimes don't realize that you actually haven't selected the vectors that you want. So let's just go ahead up here to pencil holes, and we're going to change this now to be a blue color, maybe a little bit easier to see and to be able to tell whether we have them selected or not. So let's select those now. Look at that. Let's choose our pockets. Now our start depth is going to be at 0, right at the very top of our material. We're going to cut down about 0.375 of an inch. I think that's deep enough, and you can decide how long you want to cut your pencils, but that should give you enough so they don't get too wiggly in there. We're going to use the standard 1/4 inch end mill that comes right out of our tool database, so make sure that you check that over and it is the correct settings for your machine and tool. We're going to use a pocket offset tooling strategy to cut these with, and we're just going to go ahead and rename that now Pegs Pocket. And we'll calculate that, and off we go. Let's preview this visible tool path, and that looks really good. Wonderful. Let's close that down, and we'll go back to our 2D view again. The next one we're going to actually cut is going to be the pocket with a little cutout section that we're going to put the pegs in that we've jumped over, the pencils that we've jumped over. So let's select that, and we're going to make that a pocket again. Same depth as the holes that we have for our pegs. I think that would look really nice. Same tool, same strategy, and we're going to go ahead and calculate that. Preview that visible tool path. That looks great. Now I forgot to rename that one, so let's right click on that and we'll rename that. We're going to call this Pencil, pencil pocket. So that way we'll remember what that is, and then we can press close, and that's perfect. Back to our 2D view again. The next thing we're going to do is cut these little details here, these little V grooves we're going to call them. And to do that, we're going to use a V-carving tool or a V-bit, and we're not going to use the VCarve strategy for this because they're not closed vectors. So we're going to have to use the profile toolpath, and we're going to go down, start at 0, we're going to go down 0.02 of an inch, 0.05 of an inch, not too deep. We just want to make it look like they're there. Select the tool here. We're going to choose the standard 60-degree V-bit. We'll select that. We're going to go on the line. It's perfect, and that looks all good there, and we're just going to go ahead and rename that. So we're going to call this V grooves, and it's a profile, and that's great. calculate that, and let's preview that visible toolpath, and that's perfect. The next toolpath, we're gonna pretty this up a little bit by putting a slight chamfer on the outside edge of this pocket here and then around our whole actual board. So let's go to our 2D view. We're gonna select, holding down our shift key, this outside vector. Oh, we also have these selected by mistake, so let's unselect everything just by clicking in the white area. Let's again hold down our shift key, grab those two vectors. We're gonna use a profile cut again. We're gonna go down 0.1 of an inch this time. Use the same V-bit, except we're gonna go on the line. Again, okay, perfect. And that looks good, and all that's fine. And we're just gonna name this now chamfer, and we're gonna call that profile. And we will go ahead and calculate that. Let's preview that visible toolpath. Oh, that looks really good. It cleans up those edges, makes it look really nice, I think, in the end. Let's close that down, and for our final toolpath, we're going to create our actual profile cutout. So let's unselect everything and select that outside vector. We're going to create a profile cut. We're going to go down the full depth of our material. So if we put Z in this field, and we're going to add to that 0.02 of an inch, so it's going to go slightly through our material into our spoil board, which is fine. I don't mind cutting that a little bit. We're going to change our tool back to our 1/4 inch end mill, so we're going to go ahead and select that. We are going to cut outside that line, no allowance. We're going to add in some tabs. We're going to edit our tabs, and we're going to add in 4 of those. And we can just click on the line where we want them to be, and we'll move these guys where they happen to be. The last time around, I had this set up like that. That's perfect. Let's close that now. Check our tab setup here. That looks really good. I think those are safe and appropriate. And we're going to rename this cutout. It's going to be profile. And we will calculate that. And it tells us that we are going to cut through our material, which is fine. So let's click OK. And let's preview our visible toolpaths. And because we were on the line when we did that chamfer, it cut past all that. So that's great. It only leaves half it behind. Looks really good. And I think that's perfect. I think that'll make a nice, pretty little board to have on the table, maybe on my bar, and we can go ahead and play this when the kids get bored or when I just want a little something to do. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you got some great tips and tricks. If you're catching this live and you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to post them in the chat box. We'll be sticking around for about 15 minutes to help answer your questions. After that, if you're not catching this live, then please just put your questions and comments below and we'll get to them as soon as we can. We're always checking. From all of us here at Vectric, please have fun, keep making, and most importantly, keep safe. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions at all, don't hesitate to post them in our comments below and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Thank you so much.